welcome to UzReport World News Broadcasting with me, Davron Jumaev. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on Friday paid a visit to the construction site of the Center of Islamic Civilization. The internal and external design of the museum as well as its content was discussed with the leading world scientists and art critics.
The scientific and historical concept based on the research of field experts reflected an enormous contribution of Uzbek ancestors to the Islamic civilization. Many people ask why the president cites the two renaissances as an example. This is an idea, our goal for the future. After all, we must draw spiritual strengths from history to reach the boundaries to which our country is striving. We hope that this center will become one of the foundations of the third renaissance, because it will be a scientific, secular and modern center, said Mirziyoyev. The rules and formulas used today in such fundamental areas such as mathematics, physics, geometry, astronomy and medicine are based on the discoveries of our ancestors. The first scientific sources in the Middle Ages contained references to our ancestors, but later they disappeared, said President Mirziyoyev. Shavkat Mirziyoyev instructed to allocate additional funds and research grants to the Institute of History of the Academy of Sciences of Uzbekistan for the study of primary sources of scientific works. In addition, instructions were given on organizing a multimedia department at the center to bring the scientific heritage to the use in a modern format, as well as a workshop laboratory of ancient calligraphic art. While visiting every room of the center, the president noted that modern solutions were needed to accommodate a large number of tourists, delegations, international conferences and exhibitions designed for visitors of different ages. Here, the head of state spoke with scholars, intellectuals, elders, as well as the chairman of the mahallas.
The Legislative Chamber of Uzbekistan is proposing to move the election day from December to October. If the document is approved by the Senate and signed by the head of state, the presidential elections of 2021 will be held on October 24. Moreover, some amendments have been adopted to the constitution as well. These were announced at the meeting of the Oli Majlis on Thursday. At the previous plenary session, a bill was put forward to amend some articles of the Constitution. These proposals were taken into account during the second reading. We do not want to abandon the reports, but we need to simplify them. Why we can't refuse to provide the report? Because here we are talking about the money of the people. However, in order for them to be correct and on the topic, we suggested that the Ministry of Justice do this together with political parties. Yesterday, we were told this issue was resolved by completely excluding the article from the law. Today, we are talking about something completely different, that this point is not taken into account. If this is not taken into account, then we are forced to put forward our opinions on this. In order to avoid an unjustified extension of the deadline for announcing election results, the deadline for appealing decisions of election commissions has been reduced from 10 to 5 days. Deputy Prime Minister, Chairman of the State Committee for Tourism Development of Uzbekistan, Aziz Abduhakimov, held talks with a delegation of the Kuwaiti airline, Jazeera Airways, headed by the Vice President Ravindran Barathan. The parties discussed direct flights from Kuwait to the cities of Uzbekistan, increasing the flow of Kuwaiti tourists to Uzbekistan, as well as cooperation in the field of tourism. The Kuwaiti delegation expressed interest in opening a new regular air route Kuwait-Tashkent from March 2021. The Uzbek Tourism Committee assured the full support to initiative announced by Jazeera Airways. JP Morgan Development Finance Institution has positively assessed Uzbekistan's soon-denominated Eurobond transaction impact on the development of the country. The proceeds from the transaction amounting to 2 trillion soums are anticipated to fund the UN SDGs associated development projects that will contribute to fighting poverty, ensuring healthy lives, promoting quality education, advancing gender equality, etc.
To make the use of borrowed funds transparent, the Finance Ministry, in cooperation with JP Morgan DFI, will provide annual report on progress of the selected projects. The report will reflect the impact of the implemented projects on improving the living standards of the population. Funds raised through the transaction are set to be channeled towards reconstruction of schools, health institutions, improving drinking water and sewage pipelines, automobile roads, providing financial assistance to women and families in difficult social situations, as well as to women with disabilities, etc. Uzbekistan placed dual tranche sovereign international bonds denominated both in dollars and local currency in the amount of $750 million on the London Stock Exchange on November the 19th.
Uzbekistan's central bank has adopted a resolution to improve operations for the purchase and sale of foreign currency in the domestic foreign exchange market. The document approves the strategy of currency interventions for 2021-2025. It outlines the principles, forms, goals, and objectives of currency intervention by the central bank. In accordance with the document, starting from February 15, 2021, foreign exchange market will switch from the current fixing trading method to matching. Trade sessions are to be conducted through the online platform. Moreover, commercial banks shall be forbidden from participation in trading on behalf of clients. Foreign exchange transactions of commercial banks with economic entities are carried out directly. Uzbekistan and the World Bank are working on a country partnership framework for 2022-2026. These and other priorities of cooperation between the country and the bank were discussed at the meeting between the First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Farhod Arziev, and WB Country Manager, Marco Mantovanelli.
The parties considered the implementation of ongoing World Bank projects in Uzbekistan aimed at eradicating poverty, supporting youth and women's entrepreneurship, improving rural infrastructure and mitigating the effects of the pandemic. Marco Mantovanelli also expressed his readiness to support the successful implementation of the state program, Year of Support for Youth and Public Health Promotion.
The devastating flood of the Sardoba Dam in the Sirdarya region in May last year urges the country to apply foreign experience in this system. Thus, the Embassy of Uzbekistan in the United States took the initiative in cooperation with the U.S. Army Corps of Military Engineers for a 5-day online training.
Specialists of the Ministry of Water Resources, Uzbek Hydroenergo, the State Inspectorate, leading design institutes, water management facilities, as well as the teaching staff of the Tashkent Institute of Irrigation were taught by USACE specialists, mainly Nate Snodland, director of the USACE Risk Management Center, who has many years of practical experience in monitoring the safe operation of 715 dams in the United States. During the online seminar, American experts explained the system of U.S. state bodies in the field of ensuring the safety of hydraulic structures, legal regulation and existing programs in this area, institutional mechanisms for risk management, and analysis of potential damage. According to the Embassy of Uzbekistan in Washington, a visit of USACE experts to Uzbekistan is planned in March this year to jointly examine the existing dams for the physical condition and integrity of the facilities, as well as the potential risks of their functioning failures. As a result, it is planned to develop models of possible failures, analyze the consequences, as well as develop recommendations for technical monitoring and improving the level of dam safety.
Chief of World Health Organization on Friday called on the world to use COVID-19 vaccines in a fair and effective way to ensure more people will be given shots in the future. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus made the remarks at a virtual press conference in response to the skyrocketing growth of the confirmed cases around the globe in the past 2 weeks, much faster than that over the past 6 months.
The pandemic has exposed and exploited the inequalities of our world. There is now real danger that the very tools that could help to end the pandemic, vaccines, may exacerbate those same inequalities. Vaccine nationalism might serve short-term political goals, but it's ultimately short-sighted and self-defeating. We will not end the pandemic anywhere until we end it everywhere.
Meanwhile, the availability of vaccines and the effectiveness of vaccines are the most significant sources of uncertainty for the 2021 forecast of the International Monetary Fund, according to the organization's managing director. In an exclusive interview with China's Central Television on Thursday, Kristalina Georgieva said the COVID-19 pandemic is accelerating in many countries and uncertainty is unusually high.
But let me be very clear. We do see great deal of uncertainty for 2021. Why? Because the race between a mutating virus and vaccines is not yet over, because there is unevenness. 150 countries are not going to reach their pre-pandemic level in 2021, and 110 would still not reach pre-pandemic level even in 2022. So these uneven recoveries mean that while the average projection is 5.5, there are parts of the world that are lagging behind.
Uzbekistan has ordered 15 million doses of coronavirus vaccine to vaccinate 20% of the population, said the deputy head of the Sanitary and Epidemiological Welfare and Public Health Service, Nurmat Atabekov. 7 million people will receive double vaccination. At the initial stage, 100,000 doses of the vaccine will be brought and 50,000 people will be vaccinated. Uzbekistan has extended restrictions on inbound, outbound and transit international flights with the UK, Italy, Germany, Denmark, Austria, Australia, the Netherlands and South Africa until March the 1st, as per the decision of the Republican Anti-Coronavirus Commission, taking into account the persistence of a difficult epidemiological situation in these countries. Previously, restrictions were introduced from December 21st to January 10, and then extended until February the 1st, and with Germany added to the list. Citizens of these countries and stateless persons permanently residing in these states, as well as citizens of third countries who have visited these states within the last 14 days, are not allowed to enter Uzbekistan during the period of the restriction. Uzbek citizens and stateless persons who have been to these countries in the last 14 days and arrive from a third country will be put in mandatory self-isolation for 14 days in designated facilities or hotels, it said.
With millions of Americans out of work and many pushed into poverty, President Joe Biden and U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Friday urged Congress to take immediate action on the president's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief proposal.
So the choice couldn't be clearer. We have learned from past crises the risk is not doing too much, the risk is not doing enough. And this is the time to act now.
Yellen, the administration's point person on the economy, reminded Congress that if it doesn't act quickly, then more people will be left behind.
If there's not more help, many more people will lose their small businesses, the roofs over their heads, and the ability to feed their families. The President's American Rescue Plan will help millions of people make it to the other side of this pandemic. And it will also make some smart investments to get our economy back on track.
The pandemic has killed nearly 430,000 people in the U.S., and efforts to control it have taken an uneven economic toll on Americans. On Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor said the sharply divided chamber would begin work on robust legislation next week, with or without Republican support to pass it.
We are in the midst of a once-in-a-century crisis. It requires a once-in-a-century effort to overcome it. The dangers of undershooting our response are far greater than overshooting. But if our Republican colleagues decide to oppose this urgent and necessary legislation, we will have to move forward without them.
Republicans and some Democrats have balked at the $1.9 trillion cost of Biden's proposal, which is on top of $4 trillion in aid approved by Congress last year. But Democrats vowed to push ahead and are preparing to use a parliamentary tool called reconciliation, which would allow Democrats to pass much of Biden's proposal by a simple majority in the Senate, without Republican support, with Vice President Kamala Harris wielding the 50-50 Senate's tie-breaking vote. Later Friday, on his way to Walter Reed Medical Center, Biden again pushed Congress to act, even if the Democrats have to do it alone.
I support passing COVID relief with support from Republicans if we can get it, but the COVID relief has to pass. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Thank you.
In the battle against COVID-19, the United States may soon add another weapon to the arsenal. Johnson & Johnson announced on Friday that its single-dose vaccine was 66% effective in preventing COVID-19 in a large global trial against multiple variants. In the study of nearly 44,000 volunteers across 3 continents, the level of protection against moderate and severe COVID-19 varied from 72% in the United States to 66% in Latin America, but just 57% in South Africa, where a particularly worrying variant has been circulating. The U.S. found its first cases of the South African variant in the state of South Carolina this week. The globe is in an urgent race, trying to vaccinate as many people as possible before more of these variants can spread further and others can emerge. Cut down on global cases and you cut down on the chance for new, dangerous mutations. Top U.S. infectious disease specialist Anthony Fauci.
This is a wake-up call to all of us that we will be dealing as the virus uses its devices to evade pressure, particularly immunological pressure, that we will continue to see the evolution of mutants. So that means that we, as a government, the companies, all of us that are in this together, will have to be nimble. This all tells us that it is an incentive to do what we've been saying all along, to vaccinate as many people as we can, as quickly as we possibly can.
Johnson & Johnson plans to seek emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration next week. It has said it plans to deliver 1 billion doses of the vaccine globally in 2021, which it will make in the United States, Europe, South Africa, and India. Unlike the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, J&J's does not require a second shot weeks after the first, nor does it need to be kept frozen, making it a strong candidate for use in parts of the world where transportation and cold storage present problems.
European Union regulators have now approved AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine for people over the age of 18, the third shot to be cleared for use there. The AstraZeneca vaccine demonstrated an efficacy of about 60% in the trials on which it based its decision, the European Medicines Agency said in a statement. There were not yet enough results for people over the age of 55 to determine how well the vaccine would work for this group, the agency said. However, it said protection was expected and that the vaccine can be given to older people. AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot welcomed the decision. The bloc also published its contract with AstraZeneca on Friday, which said the Anglo-Swedish drug makers should use facilities in Britain as well as continental Europe to manufacture its vaccines for the EU. Europe urgently needs more shots to speed up its inoculation programme, which lags behind ex-member Britain and the United States. AstraZeneca and other suppliers have cut deliveries, citing production problems. And the EU has demanded that it uses supplies made in Britain for use in the bloc. AstraZeneca says it's bound by a separate contract with the British government to fulfil the UK's order before it can export doses from there abroad.
When Elon Musk tweets, people trade. Bitcoin jumped as much as 14% on early Friday, hitting a 2-week high. Fueling the buying, the Tesla CEO simply wrote #Bitcoin in his bio on the Twitter site. It's not the first time he has broached the subject. In a Twitter exchange with a Bitcoin advocate last month, he asked about the possibility of converting large transactions of Tesla's balance sheet into that digital currency. Musk has a record of making comments on Twitter that move the markets. Nearly 44 million users follow the billionaire entrepreneur. On Thursday, shares of Polish games producer CD Projekt rocketed higher after Musk posted a tweet expressing his admiration for its video game Cyberpunk 2077, writing, "The aesthetics of Cyberpunk are incredible, by the way." And 3 days ago, GameStop surged 50% after Musk tweeted "GameStonk," along with a link to the Reddit Wall Street Bets chat room. Stonks is internet slang for stocks, and in that forum, GameStop supporters affectionately refer to him as Papa Musk.
That you have to have a certain amount of faith and trust and belief in what you do.
Tributes were pouring in Friday for iconic Emmy and Tony-winning actress Cicely Tyson, who shattered racial stereotypes over a 7-decade career. Tyson died Thursday at age 96, just 2 days after the publication of her memoir, Just As I Am. Oprah Winfrey perhaps captured her best, writing, quote, "Cicely decided early on that her work as an actor would be more than a job. She used her career to illuminate the humanity of Black people. The roles she played reflected her values. She never compromised. Her life so fully lived is a testimony to greatness." Throughout Tyson's distinguished career, which ranged from her breakthrough film role in 1972's Oscar-nominated Sounder to recent parts on TV shows How to Get Away with Murder and House of Cards, Tyson stood firm in her refusal to take roles she deemed demeaning to Black women. Despite great success on stage and in films, it was television that made her a household name, with groundbreaking performances in 1974's The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, 1977's Roots, and 1994's The Oldest Confederate Widow Tells All. In the 2000s, Tyson worked steadily in film, thanks in part to Tyler Perry, who cast her in several of his movies. Of her death, Perry wrote, quote, "This one brought me to my knees. She was the grandmother I never had and the wisdom tree that I could always sit under to fill my cup. My heart breaks in one beat while celebrating her life in the next." Tyson was married to jazz great Miles Davis from 1981 to 1988. Her numerous awards also included honors from the NAACP, and in 2016, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. Obama on social media wrote, quote, "She had a heart unlike any other, and for 96 years, she left a mark on the world that few will ever match."
Stocks on Wall Street tumbled Friday. The three major indexes suffered their worst weekly decline since October as frenzied trading in heavily shorted stocks hurt investor sentiment. The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ ended Friday roughly 2% lower. For the week, the three indexes each dropped more than 3%. For the month, the Dow and S&P finished in the red. ClearBridge Investments investment strategist Jeffrey Schulze says the indexes could pull back up to 10% because market sentiment is overly bullish.
We thought that positioning was pretty stretched as we came into January. Optimism was off the charts. Put-call ratios were at levels last seen in 20 years ago. You also had record margin positioning. There was a lot of optimism in all of the investor sentiment surveys. So I think the market was due for a bit of a breather, a little bit of a consolidation.
Worries of a short squeeze grew Friday as some trading platforms allowed retail investors to resume trading shares of GameStop and Koss. Shares of the video game retailer jumped 68%, and the headphone manufacturer rose 53%. Hedge funds betting that those stocks would fall recently sold off investor favorites to cover billions of dollars in losses. Apple and Amazon were among the big decliners. Shares of Johnson & Johnson fell nearly 4%. The drug maker said its single-dose vaccine was 72% effective in the U.S. and 66% globally in preventing COVID-19. But that fell short of the high bar set by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, whose vaccines were found to be 95% effective when given in 2 doses.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.